I'm in the garden. Is it live? Oh yeah, it's live. I don't know how long this has been live, sorry. I'm in the garden because it's too nice to be indoors. And I sat here and I thought, let me try, see if it works. And if it works, then it's like beautiful out there. And this is shady enough, and I hope the signal won't go. So, I'm still reading Life in Spirit, Harry Edwards' account of the afterlife. In the sleeve notes he says, this is the story of John and Mary, any John, any Mary, brother and sister, husband and wife, sweethearts, friends. The story of you and me, but with this difference, John and Mary have died and have entered into their new life in spirit. Harry Edwards was a renowned healer, and this was published in 1976. I just finished a very long chapter entitled The Place of Healing. It had 4 parts in the end. This is now chapter 19, and it's entitled The Place of the Guides. The guide impressed John and Mary with the very great importance of their coming visit to the place of the guides. His solemnity and reverence for the occasion impressed them deeply. He seemed to acquire a new stature, dignity and importance. In one of his previous quiet moments he told them that in earth years he had been in spirit life for 2.5 centuries, and the taking of his 2 charges through the various stages of spirit experiences and the explaining of their particular mission was to be his final task before he would be admitted into the company of the guides they were now to visit. When they arrived after thought journey, they settled themselves down for a short while to look around them. They became spellbound by the stupendous grandeur of the whole scene that extended from one horizon to the other. The background was not just mountainous when viewed by its height, but wonderful in the totality of its presentation as a grand design, giving a full picture of life's idealism with the glory of the Father at its center. Its perfect presentation of celestial light values, Olympian in design, presenting a vista of an indescribable spiritual concept, flowing out from the God center to the curving side stretched out as far as one could see. The 2 visitors felt very small indeed, almost insignificant, as they unsuccessfully tried to take into themselves the enrapturing details of the whole scene and the part that each facet played in contributing to the majesty of it. John said to the guide, "If I could stay here for a while, I should never be able to hold the complete wholeness in my mind. Or if I could stay here for all the time, I should never be able to hold the complete wholeness in my mind." "No mind can do this," replied the guide. "It is divinity conceived and is thought to be the entrance of heaven to the house of the Father, and this is his way of conveying his welcome to all who pass through the portal or who serve him in this place." The guide went on to say, "Up there, pointing towards the center, is the place of the Masters of Destiny. They are the nearest to God that we know of. They have power to considerable extent, enabling them to make adjustments within the laws of creation. Whenever there is danger from the dark forces threatening human spiritual progression, they are the powerful ones who know all things and can prepare for and arrange sequences of happenings to come to the rescue of that which is on the side of spiritual progression." An instance of this was the means by which the Israelites were helped to avoid being destroyed. Your early biblical history tells the story of how the Red Sea was divided into 2 walls of water, enabling the chosen people to escape the wrath of King Herod's soldiers. In more recent earth times, another example was seen in the conflict between the malignant Demogorgon, whose other name was Hitler. This occurred at the time when the forces of right were in danger of total defeat on the beaches of Dunkirk. The Prime Minister called the nation to prayer, and he reinstituted the beloved chimes of Big Ben on the radio. Thus the call to the people went out at 9 p.m. each evening to pray for peace. The seas at this time were very high and angry. The winds were of hurricane force. Yet despite this, the call went out to the owners of all the small craft to brave the high winds and tumultuous seas, to travel to the beaches of Dunkirk, and to bring back the beleaguered army. Then it was that the masters of destiny intervened, and arranged for the high winds to die down, and the seas to become calm, and this calmness continued for 3 days and nights, to bring back all those who waited on the beaches. When the operation was over, the elements ruled as they did before. Again, in that war, when all the West, except Britain, was under the heel of Hitler, who only needed to overthrow a diminished and disarmed Britain to establish his full supremacy over Europe west of Russia, why did he turn his campaign away to the east? Hitler was guided by his astrologers, and so it was he was influenced to attack Russia, giving time for the West to prepare and build up its strength to ensure the nations would be free from an evil military domination. 24 hours before Hitler's intention to go east was known, the author was sitting with a trance medium, Arnold Clare, and the guide foretold the event as a triumph for the spirit, and so ensuring that Hitler would lose the war. There have been other premeditated plans to help the human family in times of peril, the guide continued. Jesus was sent at a time when Roman civilization was in danger of evil domination. There are but two classes of people, the slaves and those who owned them. The slaves were powerless and fearful. The rulers were corrupt and viciously cruel in their living and treatment of the slave. The love of any spiritual God was dead. The corruption of the flesh by coarse living dominated the way of life at that time. So it was that Jesus was sent to earth, life in this center of evil corruption, a humble person gifted with spiritual fire, who gave an entirely new spiritual directive, supported by his gifts of the Spirit, of healing, by contact and absent healing methods, and by prophecy. He preached a philosophy so new, so foreign to the concept of life in those times. It was from those teachings a new world consciousness emerged. Here was a young man who was born in an obscure village, the child of a peasant woman. He grew up in another village. He worked in a carpenter's shop until he was 30, and then for 3 years he was an itinerant preacher. He never wrote a book. He never held office. He never owned a home. He never had a family. He never went to college. He never put his foot inside a big city. He never traveled 200 miles from the place where he was born. He never did one of the things that usually accompany greatness. He had no credential but himself. While he was still a young man, the tide of public opinion turned against him. His friends ran away. He was turned over to his enemies. He went through the mockery of a trial. He was nailed to a cross between two thieves. While he was dying, his executioners gambled for the only piece of property he held on earth, and that was his coat. When he was dead, he was laid in a borrowed grave through the pity of a friend. 19 centuries have passed, and today he is the central figure of the human race and leader of the column of progress. I'm far within the mark when I say that all the armies that ever marched, and all the navies that were ever built, and all the parliaments that ever sat, and all the kings that ever reigned put together, have not affected the life of man upon earth as has that one solitary life. Study your past histories and you will see why other great reformers were sent to guide the people into a new and enlightened way of life. Men like Abraham Lincoln, Fox, Bunyan, Wesley, Booth in the West, Mohammed, Buddha, Confucius and other princes of light in the East. It gave us spiritual courage with knowledge, recognizing that the divine power for good will be ever more powerful than that which is evil. The visitors looked around them and saw lower down the slopes small communities. They are guides with their followings of helpers, said the guide. They have established a strong rapport, association or thought communication with human minds on earth, who are called mediums. Some are teachers, healers, inspirers, philosophers. Others have the faculty of using the thought line of communication to transmit visions and pictures to an attuned earthly mind. Others can direct the sounds of voices in order to give comfort to the bereaved, to grant mental ease and happiness by means of music, drawing, painting, and other of the arts and sciences. There are the guides who work under considerable difficulties, employing a superior knowledge of both physical and spirit chemistry, to present to humankind phenomena of an unusual nature. We will study each of these in turn, but first I wish to take you to see the leader of the healing guides. Those occupy an area nearer to the gates of heaven. They walked towards the center, where the largest gathering was assembled. There was a half circle of the brown stone veranda-type seating, on which a number of savants sat deep in meditation. In the center was the leader. Apart from those in meditation, he held the attention of all around him. Their guide took them a little way off, where they could sit and watch, and then he said, I shall not be with you very much longer. You will return to your home, and together you will think over and discuss all that you have seen. You have had a preview of what can be your spiritual advancement. You have already acknowledged in your mind it is not an easy road. There is much to do in each sector. It will need much patience and the acquiring of knowledge. You will need to seek the way of looking into the souls of those it will be your happiness to serve. From one sector you will be able to progress to the next, and so on, until in your distant future, traveling together, you will find your place of service here in this place. On the other hand, it may be your wish to serve in some other less arduous way. There is much honor in becoming a teacher, a professor in any of the arts and sciences, to teach others to seek the greater glories which are the opportunities for all in spirit life. Some take advantage of these things, others do not. The choice is yours. I have been happy and enriched to show you a way of divine purpose in life. You can call upon me as you will. Indeed, I shall be watching over your progress at all times. Before you return to your home, there are some other explanations I would like you to receive in order to give you a more complete picture of those things that could come within your comprehension. For example, you have not yet been able to see the structure surrounding the leader and his people. It is shaped like a cupola or curved disc. These are also with other guides and their bands of co-workers. I would find it impossible to give you any detail of its composition, for there is not within your comprehension as yet the knowledgeable basis to found an explanation upon. You will obtain this as you proceed on your life's journey. Let me say simply, it is able to receive, register, and maintain the media for the flow of thought force between us and the people of Earth, who it has become our purpose to use and help. That is, the mediums, healers, receivers of inspirational and intuitive thought, as well as for all those sick and suffering ones, who are receiving treatment, whether by contact or by distant healing method. Please remember, every positive sequence of thought establishes a positive radiation of an individual character. These radiations, when directed, can travel to a specific destination when they have purpose. When a state of affinity is established, as in mediumship, the radiation is beamed to each receiver individually. The cupola is constituted of a mass of tuned-in, thought force receiving terminals to the individual human transmitter or receiver. It is this communication which provides the medium for the transmission of healing energy, corrective thought influencing, clairvoyant pictures, clairaudient experiences, and so on. So you will observe the communication process is not casual or a matter of chance, but a well-developed, highly organized procedure using the law-governed forces of both dimensions in a precise way. When there is a healer who is in intercession for, say, 10,000 or more patients receiving distant healing, this will explain the means by which diagnosis can be made and the way in which healing energy and thought treatments are conveyed to the patients, no matter how many sufferers there may be. It is a highly organized scientific procedure. The number of connecting thought force lines each cupola contains is inexhaustible. It has the ability to store and record experiences. It is open to give to the healing laboratories any information it possesses. It will record the progressive changes, or otherwise, of the effects of energy prescriptions on the patient. It is a computer healing brain. As he spoke, they walked away from the center, towards the horizon, where all visible form diminished in size down to the point of disappearance. The guide said, "We shall now go our separate ways. You will turn your thoughts to your home, and you will arrive there, and in the fullness of change you will be asked which way you wish to travel, and if you will choose to go along the way I have shown you, you will never be alone." He took both the hands in his, their eyes met, and then he was no longer there. Chapter 20. General observations and an answer to a question or two. Goodbye. Happy Friday.